And all right. All right. And joining us now, he is, of course, one of the greats at UCF, of course, part of the 2011 2012 UCF teams that made the NCAA tournament, a regional final in Coral Gables, a fourth-round draft pick in the Major League Baseball draft, currently playing in the KBO. We hope to get him back soon here. I speak of Ben Lively joining us here. Ben, how you doing?
Doing good, guys. How are you doing?
Doing great, man. Just tell us a little bit about what's it like right now over there. You've been playing the KBO. I know you're currently rehabbing from an injury, but what's it like playing over there?
Oh, man. Feels like glorified practices. But it's still good, you know. We're still getting to play, and everything still counts. So we still get that chance to compete and play some games, actually. So it's definitely a lot more than what's going on over there.
Yeah. Well, Ben, as a competitor and as a guy who's pitched in major league stadiums and all these raucous crowd environments, when you pitch in front of no fans in a game that's supposed to mean something, and you need to still have those juices going, but there's nobody cheering or booing, does it make a difference as a performer?
I mean, I think so for me because like in a big situation, you definitely hear the crowd and you get fired up and take it to the next level. And here you're just like more like, okay, slow down. Think of it as like a glorified bullpen. You know what you need to do, execute it. There's no noise to get you out of it. Only thing you're hearing is the other team in the other dugout. That's either just gonna annoy you or fire you up just as much as you can make it.
What has this year been like for you? I know it's kind of been a struggle on the mound for you, but what has this season been like for you over there in Korea? And right now you're fighting an injury. Just what has it been like?
Oh, man. Just it feels like 2020. First two games by one run. Then my third game I get hit in the hand. I try to stay in the game. They take me out. Then end up getting a loss that game too. And then next game, warm me up before the game, I just felt something in my rib. And I was like, oh, no. And just got the MRI, and I was like, well, this is great because 2020 couldn't be any worse. But I'm getting healthy pretty quick, It's like it subsided very, very fast, and they're thinking about 2 weeks I'll be back to games, and I'm going to try to be an absolute animal when I get back on the mound.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to go back to when you agreed to sign with the Samsung Lions. Obviously, you played for years at the major league level with the Phillies and the Royals, so in 2019, you're traded to the Diamondbacks, and then after that, you sign with the Samsung Lions in August of 2019. What did you know about the KBO at the time that you signed, and what was the adjustment like when you got there?
I mean, when I got to Arizona, like there was a lot of talk that they were going to get rid of Greinke, and I would have a chance to start. And then when I was with the Royals, I was bullpen starter, just getting played with, and that wasn't fun. But when I got to Arizona, they wanted me to be a starter because they were going to do some deals at the deadline. And they made some deals, but they also picked up an extra starter. And right after that deadline passed, Korea contacted me. And so I went to the coaches the next day, and I was like, hey, like I just got an offer to go to Korea. And I was still on the roster, and I was like, I mean, like, what do you guys think? And they were like, well, it's up to you, but I mean, we don't like, we're not going to deny it for you. We're not going to like do anything. It's your decision. So I was like, well, personally, good time to go take some money and have a new opportunity over there and get back on track. So I took it, came here, and the only thing I knew about the KBO then is I had a couple buddies playing here, but I mean, they didn't play long, but they liked it. So I was kind of fired up to come over here, and it's been fun. It's definitely a different world over here.
Yeah, did it take you a while to get adjusted to the culture and the language barrier, all that stuff?
Oh, I'm still getting adjusted to the language barrier. But the culture is mainly based on like respect. Like you respect your elders, and other than that, it's just like it's pretty much like really small things, like saying like hello to everybody in the morning. Like if you don't, like some people that look at you like, what's wrong with you? Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, you say hello, you say enjoy your meal, and just respect everybody, and they respect you, and it's pretty much easy going.
It's a lot of like it's very genteel. Everybody respects each other immensely. It's like you said, it's almost an offense if you don't show outward respect towards someone.
Oh yeah, and you just get stared at.
And then obviously this season with all the coronavirus regulations that MLB is trying to figure out right now as well. But for you guys in KBO, you're living through it. So air high fives, no spitting of sunflower seeds, which is such a part of the game naturally, and all these other things that are normal to baseball that are no longer part of the game. As just a baseball player for so long, how long did it take you to sort of adjust to that and living that way as a baseball player?
I mean, first off, you got to find sunflower seeds. It's not that easy. But I mean, like, I don't know. It's pretty easy to control spitting in the dugout and stuff like that. I mean, if you need to, there's a bathroom right there inside. And so like the virus here, so it started in Korea in our city of Daegu. Like I am in the city right now where it blew up in that church. And the past week we've had one new case. Yeah, there hasn't, it's like gone. And they had a strict ruling when it first came out to make everyone stay home. They said it was a ghost town here, like when it happened. So it like blew up, but it went away so fast. So like their regulations and definitely the US regulations are way different. They're actually very, very strict here. But I mean, that's the only thing it's gonna take. You just gotta take that one little time that's gonna suck, but stay inside for a little bit, suck it up. I mean, when I first got here, I couldn't leave my apartment for 2 weeks or I could be deported. So, I mean, everyone wants to cry and complain about not being able to do stuff, but everyone's gonna cry and complain about the virus still going around.
I mean, it's you got to stay inside. You have to wear a mask when you go outside. Your social distancing, all that stuff. I mean, you guys that's just a fact of life over in Korea, where everybody seemed to follow that right away.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're very like concerned about their health here. Like you see everywhere that people are like doing something to clean. Like I don't know how to explain it. It's just like they always carry stuff with like very like cosmetic stuff, and they do like all their stuff. Like they're very, very clean people. Healthcare, very, very clean. It's pretty wild. I didn't expect that.
And like, do you still live in or when you go back to the U.S., you live in Florida, right? Do you still live in Pensacola?
Yeah, Pensacola.
So, I mean, I'm not going to get political, but when you see what's happening with all the spikes again and coronavirus cases going up, and Florida's had been a bit of a hot spot, like what do you see when you see that COVID's kind of back on the rise here?
The tourists are heading to the beach. I mean, you laugh about it as a joke, but it's probably true. I mean, everyone's traveling because it is summertime, and this is the time of the year. Like my dad runs a fishing boat. Like he relies on tourists coming down there to go fishing. And when he's not working, he's very grumpy. So, I mean, it's hard to know exactly where it's all coming from, the spread, but I mean, it has to be travelers. I mean, it's pretty much only thing that when someone comes here in Korea, like they know exactly where they came from. Like they said there was a case in Seoul the other day. These people came from Bangladesh, and like it's just so small, but the U.S. is just still so many, and it's hard to really pinpoint it. You can take your opinions everywhere.
And one of the things but back to baseball about in Korea, I think previously years ago when players went from Major League Baseball to Korea, it was almost an admittance that their career was over, that they could no longer cut it, and they went to Korea to play more baseball. When you look at guys like Eric Thames, who played in Korea, had a really successful run there, came back to the Major Leagues and was a big slugger for the Brewers. Josh Lindblom, who pitched in the Major Leagues, went to Korea, was the MVP last year, now signed a multi-year contract with the Brewers. And you've got guys like David Buchanan, former White Sox, Howard Saladino on your team in Samsung. With you guys, do you guys see KBO as something that can springboard you back in the major leagues?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's why a lot of people are here, get a new start, and that's why Matt Harvey is trying to come here. And my buddy Addison Russell just signed here. So, like, it's definitely a place to where if you tear it up, you got a very, very good chance to get a good contract back in the States.
When you rate like KBO, like you've pitched at all levels of minor leagues and baseball, whatnot, is KBO like a double A level, triple A level? What do you think?
There's teams that are high triple A,
Mm-hmm.
and there's teams that are double A. Like it's honestly the same. Like there's some good teams. Like it's no lower competition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, Ben, talk about your journey, though. It all started, going to UCF and having the great run that you did at UCF. Just talk about first, what made you decide to go to UCF?
First time I went to campus. So I was playing summer ball with the Florida Bombers down in Miami,
Mm-hmm.
and had a couple of good years with them, and the coaches were like, "Oh, you need to come check it out," and I'm like, "Okay, like whatever." Like I was still young. I'm like, "Oh, there's no way I'm playing college baseball or whatever." Like, okay, I'm just having fun playing travel ball. And then started throwing a little bit harder, and I was like, "Wow." And I started getting more letters from colleges, and UCF was always there. And right when I went to the campus, I was like, "Wow, this place is sweet." And
Wait, do you have any specific examples about what you liked about the campus?
I mean, it was just new and it was up and coming and it was just cool. Like that was their last year of Adidas when I got there, and they had the whole picture like we're gonna go to Nike, and like everything was just like brand new. And, like I went to like a couple other schools, and it's just normal colleges, like old school like Mississippi colleges. Like I was like, this place just stuck out to me, and I was like, this seems like great. I love Orlando. I love the Oviedo area. It's close to the East Coast. It's not far from home. So it was like still Florida. That fired me up. And I committed right away. I committed when I visited.
I would imagine. And what was that like? Because when you came there, you were part of that group that helped Terry Rooney kind of build the program back up. They had some down years when he took over. They kind of had to build it back up. And you guys got back to the NCAA tournament. You got in 2011, which was the first time for the program since 2004. You got to go to Tallahassee Regional. Then 2012, you had that great year. I've talked to Ronnie Richardson and Harrison Ukari about it, about that magical year where we were right there against Rice in the final weekend to decide the conference. You go to Coral Gables. Just take me through that journey when you get there and help kind of turn this program around there and have two NCAA appearances during that run.
Dude, our team that year, all I can say is we were focused and we were having so much fun. It was like when it came down to baseball, we were locked in. And when we were out of baseball, we always did stuff with each other. Like the team was always together. So it was like you're very accountable when you got to the field to like get what you need to be done. Because the last thing we wanted was Terry Rooney yelling at us and taking us on a 20-mile run. Oh, God. Yeah. So like, I mean, it just kind of led to one thing to another. Like, it was just, God, everything was just in sync. Like those 2 years, like there would be games where someone would be down, you get picked back up, pitcher would struggle, hitters would pick them up. And it was just, everyone had each other's backs, and it stayed throughout the whole year. And it was incredible. I mean, it was so much fun to witness that and be on a team like that.
A talented team. You had Darnell Sweeney at shortstop, who obviously had a cup of coffee with the Phillies, ironically enough. You had obviously guys like Ronnie Richardson, of course, DJ Hicks, a two-time All-American, and then the back end of that bullpen in 20 with Joe Rogers, arguably the best closer in the history of the program, and Roman Madrid, who I've told Murph, in that 1 year he was there in 2012 was huge. That was kind of like the Yankees, Wetland, and Rivera back then with the bullpen, which had to help guys like you out, knowing that you had a bullpen that deep.
Oh, when I was pitching there, it was like, get through 5, you're good. But, of course, I wanted to go deeper, but if you got through 5 innings, our bullpen was incredible. And our hitters that year, like, oh, man, you got DJ at the plate with people on base, or Ronnie and Darnell. Darnell made every play that got hit to him. Just, like I said, everything was in sync, and it was just fun to watch.
And you pitched a great game in that Coral Gables region, if I remember correctly. You were pitching against Missouri State, if I remember, and they had their pitcher that was going to be a highly draft pick. And you pitched a match pitch for them. What was it like to pitch in an NCAA tournament environment like you did in those 2 years, 2011 and 2012? With 2012, you were really good in that matchup there in a classic.
Oh, it was fun. It was hot. I almost died after the game.
Well, it is in Miami though for that time of year.
Oh man, it was so hot and humid. I remember like coming in the dugout and I was just drinking as much water as I could. But after I got taken out, the inning after I was done, I ended up getting a full body cramp. I fell down in the dugout, and they had to take me to the back room. I couldn't walk; they had to carry me. And I got put on an IV, and they said if I like got sick from the IV, I would have to go to the hospital because I was having heat stroke.
Holy no!
Yeah, it was brutal. And I broke my nose the next day.
Wow, that was pretty adventurous. But you won that game. You won the 2-1 game. Yeah, that was a game that had the rain delay too, if I remember correctly. I think Joe Ryan got out of a bases loaded jam, if I remember correctly, game, and that was a crazy ball game there. Is that what are your favorite memories from your days there at UCF? Because in 2013 you had your best year, first team All-USA, and you won 9 games or more multiple times. No UCF pitcher had done that since Tim Bascom. It got you to get drafted in the 4th round of the 2013 draft. But what memories or what game stands out for you from your UCF days?
Definitely the Miami game and the Marshall and Jacksonville game at home at UCF that 13 year. Those were just because I pitched against Chris Anderson. He was in Jacksonville, ended up going 1st round, and Aaron Blair that was at Marshall ended up going 1st round. Mm-hmm. And the whole backstop looked like radar guns, and it was wild.
Yeah, it's always. So you notice that when the radar guns are there and like the scouts are there pushing and looking at you, you can tell?
I mean, it doesn't look like people. It just looks like a big old silhouette of just silver, just pointing at it. And you kind of look up and you're like, all right, I can see what I got in there today. But the game that was, I think, the most fun to pitch in was against Marshall when me and Aaron both went like 7 innings. And I think we both had like 13 or 14 strikeouts. And it was just like back and forth the whole game. That was wild. That was a pretty cool game to pitch in.
Yeah, you can always get excited when you're facing off against a pitcher who's always also pumped up, and people talk about him in the draft and things. That kind of gets the competitive juices going, right? You guys can tell, even though every game is important when you pitch, but when you're facing another high level pitcher, it's almost like you got to be on your game that day.
Oh, for sure. But definitely my top game was my first game at Florida State, for sure.
First game at FSU, and that Dick Hauser, that's a hitter's park too. I mean, that's not the easiest place to play.
Oh, yeah. I grew up a Florida State fan when I was younger. And I was supposed to start on Sunday. Then on Friday night, all of a sudden, they tell me to go to the bullpen. And I'm like, and I come running in while they're playing O Canada. And I was throwing as hard as I possibly could.
I bet. What was it like playing for Terry there? Because you mentioned he's intense guy there, but obviously brought in you and Ronnie in a great recruiting class there to build that team around. But what was that experience like there? And obviously, Coach Godwin was on that staff for that year before he moved on and coaching. Obviously, he's doing good things at ECU. I mean, that was a pretty special time there as well. But what was that like from a coaching standpoint?
Oh, I mean, Rooney was Rooney. He was very intense, but he wanted the best of everybody. Like, we butted heads a little bit my freshman and the beginning of my sophomore year. But I feel like once you show how committed you are, he respects it and kind of backs off a little bit. But he's definitely going to push you, and I love that. And he definitely made me a better player and definitely a way better pitcher, how I focus towards the game and what I need to do to get things right. And Godwin was a competitor. He was ready to go in Miami's dugout.
Yeah, he was intense. I remember I've taken some bus rides there. I mean, it was in Palumbo was the other assistant, I believe, in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, that was a fascinating coaching staff because you're right. They were all intense. And I think you guys fed off of that, though, didn't you?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we were ready to go. You weren't going to start any trouble with us. Look, I remember playing guys in pro ball still. They were like, dude, we used to hate playing y'all. I was like, why? He goes, we would see the coaches yelling at y'all during warm-ups. Y'all were like slapping tags down infield, outfield. And I was like, why do you hate that? And he's like, I don't know. It's just like y'all are doing like so much extra stuff. We're like, no, we're just doing what they told us to do. It's just part of it. And they were like, oh, okay. Like, we thought y'all were just being like obnoxious. And I was like, no. We're just doing what we're supposed to do.
Right. They weren't used to having that intensity there on the field. Like I remember you guys would spike the ball after an inning and over and things like that. I guess some people took back to that over the years, but that was just part of it. I mean, that was part of the package there to get you guys the most out of you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What was it like for you when you got drafted that day in the 4th round? Did you expect it to go in that point? Were you not? Like, what's it like? You know, you're going into that MLB draft. What was your thinking process? Because it's a lengthy draft back then. And, did you have an idea where you might go or you had no idea?
I actually had a call the day before the draft from the Oakland A's, and they told me that they were going to take me 2nd round. And I was like, wow, that's pretty sick. Like, I got kind of fired up. And then nothing after that. I didn't even talk to the Reds except for like the winter meetings and stuff when they came down to visit the school and stuff. And it got through the 2nd round, and I was like, oh, whatever. And like, I'm just pumped to get a chance to go play pro ball. Like, I'm not too like worried about my placement number and all that stuff. And next thing you know, Reds called me in the 3rd round. They're like, hey, you're gonna be our next pick. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, sounds like I've heard this before. Like, whatever. And 4th round comes around. There it is. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Like, Cincinnati, that's sick. And I knew a couple of guys that got drafted by them. And I was like, oh, let's go. Like, a kid from my hometown was already there with them. And it was fun. Flew out to Arizona 2 days later.
Describe that experience. Go ahead, Murph. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, I think I know what you're going to ask for. Like, the aftermath of being drafted and sort of the realization of that, what was that like then? I mean, just what was the next like week like as you realize like I'm a major league player now. I'm drafted by a major league team.
I mean, it was just like more of like a focus, but it's more like a personal focus. Like, you're not going to have your college teammates there to back you up every single time. It's more of like in the first early years of pro ball is finding yourself and what you need to do for your own self to help you stay successful. And you definitely see it very quick. It took me a little bit because like there'd be games like I'd be trying to pick people up and people would look at me like, what are you doing? I was like, all right, I'll shut up. Sorry. But I found it pretty quick and I just kind of got on a routine and just been sticking with it. I still do the same routine to this day.
You get traded to Philadelphia for Marlon Byrd, and then when you get to Philly, that's when you get your chance to break into the major leagues. That moment, that has to be something totally unique. What was that day like for you when you broke in with the Phillies?
Yeah, words can't describe it. I got called up a few times for taxi squad, like just to be in the bullpen, just in case if they needed me on a doubleheader or something. But I didn't pitch. But I was around the team. So I kind of got like used to everybody, and of course I've already made friends that were up there and stuff like that. And when they called me and they're like, "Okay, you're starting tomorrow," I was like, "Who are we playing?" They were like the Giants. I was like, "Okay, Professor Posey, Seminole, let's go." And
This was
get to the field.
This was 2017, right? So, I was going to say they're not the reigning world champions, but they were still pretty good at that point. That was a good team.
Oh yeah, they're always a pretty solid team.
Yeah.
And so I get to the field and it's just like everyone leaves you alone. Like no one was coming. Like even though that was my first start, like you could see the media in there just like staring at me, and I would just, hey. But like everyone leaves you alone. It's like it's such a surreal feeling. Like everyone's like, all right, it's your time, let's go. And right when I got on the mound, my first thought was, okay, this first pitch is going right down the middle. Like I am throwing a strike for my first major league pitch for sure. It was right down the middle. And then I think the most mind-blowing thing to me is like I was feeling good, I was throwing strikes, but every time I got 2 strikes, I could not strike anybody out. And I ended up getting 0 strikeouts. Got my first hit before I got my first strikeout.
Wow. It's a little different, tougher in the big leagues there, getting that strikeout, the 2-out pitch there. You know, they foul pitches off.
Oh, man, they know that strike zone better than me. Like, you see the hitters, like, just ducking their head right there, and they'll shake their head right away, and that ball's 2 inches off, and you're like, dang it. But once I got, like, toward, like, the 7th inning, I was, like, getting pretty comfortable, and I was like, all right, like, it's pretty fun. But then you have those games that ball stays over the middle of the plate too long, and it happens very, very quick.
Yeah.
Very quick.
Not much room for mistakes. Did you have a moment, or do you remember a moment in which you maybe caught yourself and you know, because when you broke in, it all feels very new. But was there a time when you felt confident that and aware that, you know, I am now a major leaguer? I deserve to. I belong here. I deserve to be here. Was there a moment for you when that really kind of clicked for you?
Boston, my 3rd game. So I went 7 innings against the Giants. I went 7 innings against the Braves. And then I went 7 against Boston. And I'll never forget, in the 7th inning, Pete McCann comes out there. I put Pedroia up to play with 2 strikes. And Pete McCann walks out to the mound and just stared at me and he goes, "This is your last guy. Strike him out." And turned around and walked in. And Pete was kind of a scary guy. Like, he wasn't a big guy, but his demeanor was very aggressive. Mm-hmm. And like, he didn't speak. He's one of those managers you didn't really talk to that much, but when he did speak to you, you're like, okay. And I struck him out. And I was really, really fired up. That was definitely after the game. I was just sitting in the locker room, and I was like, wow, all right, let's keep this going.
That's pretty amazing. What's the biggest thing you learned from the time there in the major leagues? I know you were always had to be frustrating back and forth, minors and the big leagues throughout there, that you're even using now, pitching in the KBO, and you will use in the future and the rest of your career.
I think more is like there's games where you want to set guys up for strikeouts, and there's games that you want to pitch effectively early that you're going to get a bunch of – because a lot of teams have different approaches. Like, there's teams that are going to have a bunch of swings. So if you're going to play a team versus a bunch of swings or versus a patient team, there's different ways to pitch against them. And I learned that from a couple of guys and, like, watched them use it in games. And so, like, I've been putting that to use ever since I started seeing it. It works when you throw your right pitches. Makes life very easy as a pitcher.
How involved have you been with Greg Lovely and his staff at UCF Baseball? I know they've tried to bring in former players more often. Have you talked to Greg or that current staff?
Yeah, we talk a little bit. Like, he sends me emails and stuff. And I mean, when I go down there, I come by the field and say what's up and everything. Like, every time I go down there, I go by the field. I mean, of course, I got to go say what's up to the boys. But yeah, we keep in touch. I think eventually I'll make the golf tournament one day.
I've heard
I hear that's cutthroat. I hear there are people trying to get in that thing. Yeah.
When was the last time you were there? Have you been there since they have now? It's now John Giuliano Park. They've had renovations there. When was the last time you were there?
2 years ago.
Okay.
I went to a football game. I think they were playing UConn.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it was 2 years ago. But I usually try to go at least once a year. But I didn't get the chance to make it this past year. I was just kind of busy. And coming back over here, I was getting a lot of stuff together.
For sure.
But if we got college football, I most likely will be there this year.
Well, we're all hoping. Fingers crossed. But obviously, you mentioned you kept attached with the staff. But what did it? Did you follow the team? They won the conference in 2017. The American got back to the tournament since 2012. So, and the program was having a great year this year prior to the shutdown. But seems to be headed in the right direction once again, which has to make you excited as an alum.
Oh, absolutely. And they went up there and swept Auburn this year. And that was cool because I got a bunch of friends at Auburn, and I was like, "Hi, you guys suck."
That's pretty good. And of course, they had Hankinson, their reliever, goes in the 5th round. Of course, Eric Skoglund, your teammate, went in the 4th round in 2014. Do you stay in touch with guys like Skogs in the big leagues? And what advice would you give to guys like Hankinson, who's about to kind of start his journey as far as what they're getting themselves into in big league baseball here?
I mean, just do what you need to do to be ready. Anything you need to do. There's no excuse. The trainers are there for you. You got everything you need. Just don't be shy and do what you need to do and stay focused. And, yeah, I talk to big old Skoggles every now and then.
How many of the guys you stay in touch with on that team, from that team, right? Like Rogers and those guys, you're all pretty tight.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I talked to them a good bit. I played with Eric with Kansas City. We were on the Royals. That was fun. That was pretty wild. He came banging on my door my first night there. It was pretty fun.
Did you also play with Drew Butera in Kansas City?
No. He was gone when I got there. But I played against him, like said what's up and stuff.
Sure.
Okay. Right.
Cool.
That's pretty good. Well, now, as we let you go, obviously you're in the rehab. We hope to see you soon. Now, people like Brian have been getting up early to watch you pitch. And there have been UCF fans that have gotten up to watch you pitch because, well, you're the only baseball going on, and they want to see how you're doing. So just tell us a little bit on the rehab and with your timetable and just kind of more about, how you're doing, because a lot of people are interested in and still following you and hoping you're doing okay. So what would you like to tell them?
Oh, I'll be fine. I'm getting well soon. I started throwing this past week, and once I get a couple long tosses and a couple bullpens in, I think in like 2 weeks I'll get in a game and back to work.
Well, I look forward to waking up once again at 5 a.m. to get some coffee and watch KBO again. Ben, I thank you so much. As you about to head out to lunch, I'm about to go to sleep. So have a fantastic Monday.
All right, y'all have a good sleep.